The morning I paid off the final loan, my mom barely looked up from her phone. She was standing at the kitchen counter, blending her second protein smoothie of the day, while I sat at the table with a bank confirmation email open on my screen, showing a $260,000 debt cleared to zero. "It's done," I said. She turned, looked at me for half a second, and blinked like I'd told her the trash was out. "Well, that's nice, honey," she said. "Can you move your laptop? I need to wipe down the table." No hug. No thank you. No, you saved our home. I moved my laptop without saying a word. I had learned not to expect much. Not praise, not comfort, not even space to sit. We'd been living in the same house since I was born, a modest split level in the suburbs. They bought it before I was old enough to understand what mortgage meant. Years later, they nearly lost it because of poor investments and, even worse, spending habits. I was 25 when I stepped in, working 2 jobs, living on instant noodles, and still, I sent money, month after month, loan after loan, until the mountain shrank into dust. My brother, Sean, 2 years younger, never contributed a cent. He drove a leased BMW, bought $400 sneakers, had an Apple Watch before he had to resume. But they adored him. He was their golden boy. And I was the couch girl, literally, because after they gave Sean my old bedroom to turn into his gaming lounge, I slept on the living room couch. For almost a year, I paid their bills. They handed him my space. I never complained, not out loud, but then something happened that made my silence crack. One night, I came home from a late shift at the bookstore and walked in on all 3 of them laughing in the kitchen. My dad was mid-sentence. "She thinks she's the hero," he chuckled. "Always so serious, like we owe her a parade." Sean added, "She's lucky we let her live here rent-free." Rent-free, after I paid off their $260,000 debt. They didn't see me at first, but when they did, no one apologized. No one stood up or said, "We didn't mean that." My mom just tilted her head, smiled slightly, and said, "Don't take things so personally, Tessa. Your family." I nodded. Slowly, walked upstairs, past Sean's gaming room, my old room, looked at the door that still had my initials faintly scratched into the wood beneath his new neon Gamer Zone sign. And that's when I made a decision. Not in anger, not even in sadness, but in clarity. I had given them everything, and they treated me like I was lucky to be tolerated. They had no idea the deed I was about to pull, because they didn't know the one thing I never told them. The gift I gave them, I kept a copy, and soon I'd be taking it all back. My name is Tessa Clark, and from wherever you're watching this video, stay with me, because sometimes giving people the world makes them forget who built it. But when you take it back, brick by brick, that silence hits harder than any scream. People say favoritism is subtle. Not in my house. In my house, favoritism had a name, a birthday cake with extra frosting, and an allowance 3 times bigger than mine. His name was Sean. From the moment he was born, it was like my parents had finally gotten the child they really wanted. The loud one, the charming one, the boy. I became background noise. At 9, I made straight A's and got a polite nod. Sean brought home a C+ and got a pizza party. When I asked why, Mom said he tries so hard. "You're just naturally gifted, sweetie." By middle school, I was sharing secondhand clothes from my cousin Ashley, clothes Sean used to laugh at. I stopped asking for new jeans after the 3rd time my dad said, "We can't afford fashion shows." But we could afford Sean's soccer camps, his PlayStations, his birthday sleepovers with catered tacos and bounce houses. I convinced myself I didn't need those things, that being the easy child was better, safer. So I worked. At 15, I got a job bagging groceries after school. At 16, I started saving for college, even though they promised they'd help. I didn't trust promises, not in that house. When Sean crashed his first car at 17, they bought him another. When I asked to borrow the family car for a college tour, "Gas is expensive, Tess." I took the bus. Still I stayed. Through every belittled success, every joke about me being too intense or too old for my age, I stayed when my parents whispered about how Sean would probably make it big and how I'd at least be stable. Stable. That was the best I could hope for. Then came the debt. It started with a failed business, then a second mortgage. Credit card bills stacked like bricks on the kitchen table. One night, I overheard my dad on the phone. "We'll lose the house. I don't know what else to do." And like an idiot, I offered to help. I said I could move back in to save on rent, pick up extra hours, put some of my savings toward their debt, just until they got back on their feet. My mom cried, hugged me like I was oxygen. "You're our angel," she whispered. They let me believe I was saving them. But what they really wanted was a new cushion to land on. Sean didn't pitch in. Not once. He said debt wasn't his thing. And they laughed. They laughed. I thought if I gave enough, they'd see me, respect me, maybe even love me in the same glowing, unconditional way they loved Sean. But all it taught them was that I could be drained. And they drained me with a smile, until the day they mocked me in their kitchen, until I remembered the one thing I had never told them. I wasn't just the girl on the couch. I was the name on the deed. And I was done. Once the debt was gone, you'd think things would change, that they'd say thank you, that they'd recognize what it meant to hand over that kind of money, years of savings, plans, stability. But no, they acted like a weight had been lifted, just not off me. It was like watching someone exhale after drowning you. A week later, my dad bought Sean a new car. Not used, not reasonable. A brand new silver SUV with a giant red bow on top like a commercial. I came home from work and saw it in the driveway. Thought it was a neighbor's. Nope. My mom clapped her hands when Sean pulled up. "Look how happy he is, Tessa. He deserves this." Deserves. Like he'd earned it. Like his jobless, door-slamming tantrums were worth rewarding, while I was still waking up sore from sleeping on a couch they wouldn't even let me fold out. I didn't ask questions. Didn't say, "But what about the debt?" Or, "Where did the money come from?" Because I already knew. They'd gotten used to me fixing things. And once the fire was out, they lit candles for the favorite child. At dinner, my dad toasted to new beginnings. Sean laughed and said, "Thanks for keeping the couch warm, sis." I didn't laugh. Not because I was offended, but because I finally saw it clearly. They thought I'd always be there. The responsible one. The quiet one. The doormat in sensible shoes who paid bills and kept her head down. I started to disappear after that. Quietly. Stopped joining dinners. Ate in my car. Stayed late at work. The house didn't feel like home. It felt like a waiting room I wasn't welcome in. Then one night, I overheard them talking again. My parents were in the den with one of my mom's friends from church. They didn't know I was in the hallway folding laundry. Her friend said, "Tessa's really done well for you guys." My mom snorted. "Tessa's intense. She makes everything dramatic. She just paid it off so we'd feel guilty forever." They all laughed. "Don't get me wrong," she added. "We're grateful, but you cannot live with her. Everything's a lecture." I folded another towel. Didn't cry. Didn't break. I just realized once and for all, I was never going to be anything but useful to them. Not loved. Not celebrated. Useful. And the moment you realize you've been treated like a resource, not a daughter, something inside you shifts. I had spent years trying to earn what they handed Sean for free. But I wasn't empty-handed, because I'd kept one thing to myself. A document. Signed. Notarized. Filed. And the only reason they were sleeping under that roof, eating in that kitchen, laughing in that living room, was because I allowed it. And that permission was about to expire. The day I signed the deed, I didn't tell a soul. It was a year ago. The bank had offered a deal. If I paid off the mortgage in full, I could assume ownership directly, since my parents were in default and technically no longer in good standing. No fuss, no family signatures required. So I did it. All $260,000. My name was the only one on the title. It wasn't meant to be revenge back then. It was protection for all of us, to make sure no one lost the house, to give us a second chance. But that was before I heard my mother tell her friend I was dramatic, before my dad said I owed it to them because they raised me, before Sean made a TikTok in his new car about how some people work, some people win the sibling lottery, before I realized they thought I would never leave. So I pulled out the folder from the back of my closet, the one marked with my initials and a little yellow sticky note. Open if they forget who you are. Inside was the deed, my lawyer's contact, and a letter I'd been drafting for months. Not angry, not bitter, just factual. As sole owner of the property located at 184 Willow Drive, I am choosing to reclaim the space fully effective 30 days from this notice. I dropped it in the mail the next morning. Then I did the thing that scared me the most. I found my own apartment. Tiny, unfurnished, a fourth-floor walk-up with a rusted balcony railing. But it was mine. I signed the lease, picked up the keys, and then called my lawyer. Send the letters. Within 3 days, my parents received official notification. They had 30 days to vacate or agree to rent under my terms. I knew what would happen. I knew they'd call it a joke. Tessa's just being dramatic again. She's bluffing. She wouldn't do that to us. They were wrong, because they weren't facing the version of me who begged for a bed. They were facing the version who read every line of the mortgage papers, paid the penalties, and kept receipts for a year just in case. The girl on the couch? She was gone. Now I was a woman with a pen and power. I didn't scream, didn't post online, didn't text Sean or my parents to warn them. I just waited and let the silence of legal paperwork do what my voice never could. I watched my phone light up with missed calls, ignored every "we need to talk," and spent my evenings painting my new walls the color of calm, because they had taken my room, my savings, and my dignity. But they never took the one thing I'd saved in secret: control. And now, I was taking it all back. It was Sean who found the envelope first. I wasn't home when it happened, and that was intentional. He sent me a text. "WTF is this?" I didn't reply. An hour later, my mom called. Twice. Then again. Then once more just to leave a voicemail that started with, "Sweetheart, I think there's been a misunderstanding." There wasn't. What followed was predictable. A family group chat, dead for months, suddenly lit up like Christmas. "Mom, Tessa, what is this about reclaiming the house? That can't be right." "Dad, let's sit down and talk like adults. You don't have to do this." "Sean, you're being petty AF. This isn't what family does." Funny how the word family only showed up when I stopped being useful. I gave them a full day. Then I responded, "I've spoken to my lawyer. You can review the paperwork. You have 30 days to vacate or sign a rental agreement. Up to you." No emojis. No explanation. Just clarity. The next morning, I came home to find all three of them at the kitchen table, the same one they laughed around when they mocked me weeks before. Now, they weren't laughing. Mom stood first. "Tessa, we didn't mean any of that. It was just a joke. You've always been so sensitive." Dad added, "We were under a lot of stress. Debt does things to people." Sean didn't say a word. He just stared at me with that smug disbelief, like he couldn't fathom the idea that his older sister, the couch dweller, was capable of power. I didn't yell. I sat down across from them and placed a printed copy of the deed on the table. "This house is mine," I said. "Legally. Completely. You're welcome to stay if you sign the lease. Rent's fair. Month to month. Otherwise, I'll help you find somewhere else." "You'd really do this to your own family?" Mom whispered. "No," I said. "You already did." They didn't get it. Not the first time. Maybe not even now. They thought I wanted revenge. That I was angry, bitter, cold. But I wasn't. I was done. Done watching them throw parades for Sean while I balanced their ledgers. Done pretending I didn't hear the things they said when they thought I was asleep. Done being the one who gave and gave, only to be met with rolled eyes and a seat at the kids' table. This wasn't revenge. It was respect. Enforced. My way. Later that night, Sean stormed out. Slammed the door like a teenager instead of a grown man with designer sneakers he didn't pay for. My parents stayed quiet. And for once, I slept in peace. On the couch. Still. But only for 25 more days. Because after that, they'd be the ones looking for a place to land. And I'd be unlocking the door to a life they never imagined I was strong enough to build. The apologies came fast. Not the kind that heal. The kind that smell like desperation. Sweet on the surface, spoiled underneath. Suddenly, my mom was cooking again. Casseroles. Pies. That lemon chicken I used to love when I was 9. Thought I'd surprise you, she said, setting the dish on the counter with a bright smile. My dad offered to help out with my laundry. Sean, he started using words like roommate instead of freeloader. He even said I could take my room back. I'll move my stuff into the den. It's cool. You've earned it. I didn't say no. I didn't say yes. I said nothing. And somehow that silence said more than all my begging ever had. Because I could see it, the panic behind the pleasantries. The way they looked at me now, like someone who had become unpredictable. Not because I was angry, but because I had stopped needing them to love me. I moved differently. Came home late without explanation. Didn't eat what was cooked. Didn't ask for help. Didn't offer it. They were used to me managing the finances, fixing the broken things, remembering birthdays, grocery lists, and insurance forms. Now they had to Google things. And guess what? They didn't like that version of independence. They missed the girl on the couch who folded napkins and made budget spreadsheets for fun. But she was gone. In her place was someone they never thought would last 5 days without their approval, now giving them 30 to pack up or pay up. My mom started hovering more, asking gentle questions. So, what are your plans after this? Will we still talk? You're not shutting us out forever, right? I gave her the same answer every time. A kind smile. No words. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is absolutely nothing. It forces people to sit in the echo of their own mistakes. I didn't slam doors, didn't give monologues or make them grovel. I just became unavailable. Not out of cruelty, out of growth. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't living to be loved. I was living to be whole. And as the boxes started stacking in corners as the calendar ticked closer to day 30, my parents' energy shifted again. From apologetic to afraid. Because the truth they'd been running from was becoming real. I wasn't bluffing. I wasn't bending. And I wasn't coming back. On the morning of day 30, the house was quiet. Not silent quiet. The kind of quiet that knows it's the end. Boxes lined the hallway. A few labeled with Sean's name, others scrawled in my mom's handwriting. Things they never thought they'd pack. The night before, no one said anything. No pleading. No fake cheer. Just tension thick enough to cut with the same knife I once used to slice birthday cake for a family that forgot my name when the candles went out. I woke up early. Before the sun. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the blank sheet of paper in front of me. For once, I wasn't writing a budget. I was writing my goodbye. Not a rage letter. Not a look what you did to me memoir. Just the truth. Here's what it said. You had a daughter who gave you everything. And you used her until she stopped asking to be seen. I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. I was never your second choice. I just acted like I was. That ends today. I signed it, folded it, left it in the center of the table, under my favorite mug, the chipped one no one else used. Then I grabbed my keys, my backpack, and my jacket from the back of the chair. And I walked out. No ceremony. No raised voices or slam of a door. Just the sound of me locking it from the outside. I didn't check to see who read the letter. Didn't wait for a call. Didn't leave a forwarding address. Because what I left behind wasn't mine anymore. It never had been. That house, the one I had saved with everything I had, didn't feel like home. Not because of the walls. Because of the people inside them. People who clapped for Sean's every stumble and rolled their eyes at my every rise. People who saw love as obedience and gratitude as silence. But not anymore. Because that same afternoon, I walked into my new apartment, a 2-bedroom above a bakery that smelled like cinnamon and fresh starts. And I didn't unpack in a rush. I took my time, hung my framed business license on the wall, ordered a real bed, not a couch, bought myself a plant I knew I'd probably forget to water, but loved anyway. And when I sat down that night, in a chair that didn't creak in a space no one mocked, I felt it for the first time in years. A breath I didn't have to hold. It's been 6 months since I walked out. No one calls anymore. Not Sean. Not my mom. Not my dad. And that's okay. Silence used to feel like punishment. Now, it feels like permission. My apartment isn't huge. The floors creak. The oven runs too hot. I've killed 2 houseplants. But when I unlock the door, the air doesn't feel like a test. It feels like mine. I started hanging my own art. Photographs I took while walking to clear my head. Quotes I used to scribble in old notebooks. Reminders of the girl who used to beg for approval. Now they're framed. There's a little shelf in my bedroom that holds the things I couldn't throw away. The bank receipt from the day I paid off their debt. The deed with my name at the top. The goodbye letter I printed for myself. The version I didn't leave behind. Because sometimes closure isn't what you hand to them. It's what you hand to yourself. I used to dream of being seen. Now I dream of being centered. I sleep in a bed I chose. I wake up to silence, not slamming doors or guilt served on a plate with breakfast. I run my small design business out of the second bedroom, what I call the office of no apologies. Clients know me as reliable, professional, kind. They don't know that for years I paid the rent on a home that mocked me. They don't need to, because I don't live there anymore. Not physically, not emotionally. And if you're watching this thinking, how could she do that to her family? Let me say this. I didn't do anything to them. I just stopped letting them do everything to me. That's not revenge. That's reality. That's what happens when the person you treated like an afterthought remembers who she is and becomes impossible to ignore. Now I tell my own story. In every decision, every boundary, every silence that says more than explanation ever could. I'm not angry. I'm awake. And at night, when I finally crawl into bed, no lights left on, no shoes thrown in the hallway, no one shouting from behind a door that used to be mine, I whisper the same line to myself. They took everything I gave and still looked down on me. So I took back what was mine. And now I sleep without apology.